Fueling the passion, igniting the light through highs and lows. We'll stand as one, a legacy, a tale that's just begun. Together we roar, together we grow. Our Detroit Lions will rise, with our hearts full of dreams and the fire in our eyes.
All right. Hey, welcome into the Rise and Grind Morning Show. Good morning, everybody. It is 8:02 a.m. It is also October 9th. It is Wednesday. So we're going to be talking about the Lions' upcoming opponent, the Dallas Cowboys, many of which have called this a revenge game. Some of the Detroit Lions, or majority of the Detroit Lions players, feel it's just business as usual. They've put it in the rearview mirror. It's time to move forward and just go win the game. But before we get rolling, good morning, Eric. How you doing today?
Fantastic. Got to see the Northern Lights again last night, which was pretty cool. 2 nights in a row. Got to see the Northern Lights.
It's kind of cool, man.
But the only thing that wasn't cool, on my way home from the beach last night, the thermostat on my vehicle for the outdoor temperature said 33 degrees and said, drive carefully, ice possible. That wasn't cool.
Yeah, we had a little bit. It seemed like we had frost last night, but I don't think it was. I just think it was really, really, really cold.
We did up here.
You had frost up there last night?
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy, man. Mid-October, and we're already getting some crazy weather. But before, talking about crazy weather, so my kids obviously down in Naples, family in North Carolina. I mean, right in the heart of the mess of everything, the western side of North Carolina up in the mountains. I mean, they've lost everything.
It's D-Day, right, for that storm to hit Florida.
And it's about to happen again. So we've got category 4, I think, that's about to hit Central Florida, Tampa. I mean, that whole area again, at least the last I looked. So my heart obviously is with all of the Floridians, and I mean all the Americans that are, and even non-Americans that are going to be affected by this. But my kids, don't be bullheaded. Get your butt somewhere and be safe. You can always head north, but it's a little late. I saw last night that all of the highways are gridlocked, and
gas at the gas stations.
Well, they ran out of gas on the highway too, and you've got to be smarter than that. You've got to bring extra gas with you. And if you don't prepare now, how are you going to prepare when we have a much bigger situation? Hopefully it doesn't ever happen, but you've got to be prepared for these things. And you would think that Floridians would have learned by now, but they're not. So hopefully we don't have death and destruction to the highest degree like we've already been seeing. So it's not fun to watch. Good morning to everybody in the chat. I'll try to get to you. We got memberships updated. Still cranking away on memberships. You guys are awesome, but do us a favor. If you haven't already, like the stream. If you want the Lions to beat the Cowboys, you need to smash that like button right now.
There we go.
If you want these, because I'll tell you what, they're all going to watch this stream later, and they're going to see if you liked it. And if you didn't, they're just going to say, well, I guess the fans didn't care. So we're not going to win this one. But I already smashed the like button.
There we go.
Have to, right? So let's get it off and rolling. Let's see what the roster says. We're going to be all over the place today, but Lions news and rumors as usual every day. Cowboys injury review. We don't know everything. It's Wednesday, so we're going to get our first look at it today. So I'm banking on what I've already seen from last week and what I've read this week already. Trying to get a crossover set up for Saturday. We'll see if we can make that happen. I'll check the email later on today, see if we can get Cowboys podcast on. There's quite a few of them, so trying to weed through them is difficult. But what are the Cowboys media saying about the Lions and Lions players press conference review? If we get a chance today, I'll bring in yesterday's media and we'll talk about it, listen to it. But I want to start off with something that you guys are not going to like. And I'm just going to get this started off in a direction that hopefully gets you a little bit fired up. You guys ready to do it? Eric, you ready?
Sure.
Here we go.
And with 23 seconds left in the game, this to go ahead. Everybody that had to make the play on this last possession did just that. Starting with being able to handle Micah Parsons, but Goff had to get the ball out as well. Dan Skipper, an extra offensive lineman, comes in. Play action. End zone. There it is! Unbelievable! The two-point try is good, and it's Taylor Decker, part of the old guard that was saluted after the win last week. And the Lions are up by 1. What a moment for this franchise, and what a moment for the 8th-year pro Taylor Decker. This crowd is absolutely stunned. Now a flag comes in at the end, and they've thrown another. The question is, did Skipper, an offensive lineman, report? What else could it be?
Touching by number 68.
So the call is an illegal touch.
I think number 70 and number 68 came in, and I'm not sure 68 reported as ineligible.
Well, I had to do it. I had to bring us back to this moment because there was so much emotion going on here. Number one, man, the Lions just couldn't be stopped. I mean, that offense was so good, and Ben Johnson was really in his bag that day. It was a tough game, and for them to pull it off like that, and for Brad Allen to ruin it, that's why I've been paying attention to where he's reffing, because I don't want him anywhere near the Lions. And I was going to pump out some videos this week about Brad Allen, but I figured, we'll just let it be. Like, let's try to make this as positive as we can, because last year, I mean, the game didn't ruin us, right? I mean, it did at the moment. And it hurt our playoff seeding. I feel like the Lions could have ended up with the number 1 seed had that game been a W. And it didn't ruin us, though. We still made the playoffs. We still went 30 minutes close to a Super Bowl. And, if anything, the Lions ruined their own season by, the way that they played in the second half and some of the calls by the coaching staff and, some of the play on the field. So at the end of the day, what I wanted to say about this is it's time to pack this one up, put it away, and move on. This is a new game. There's going to be a lot of emotion. We're all ready to beat the Cowboys because it's been many years since we've gone down and beaten them in their own home. And last year would have been the first time in a long time. We need to get it done. Like, this game has so much more implications than just revenge. Because when you look at the Cowboys, schedule up through week 12, man, they are running a gauntlet of really good quarterbacks. So if we can get them off into the wrong direction of losing, more than likely the Cowboys won't be an issue for us in the playoffs. They may not even make it, especially with the quarterbacks that they're going up against. They've got a pretty tough schedule. But anyway, Eric, I'm sure a belly full of emotion listening to that.
Dude, I almost walked off. You almost lost your co-host for today. Oh, man, that just makes me mad as hell.
Hey, they're all awake now, right? If you guys are on your way to work, you're awake now. Just don't go in and piss off your boss. Just don't do that. We are owed, or where do we belong, or the type of players that we feel we should have, and just how good of a team, can we really get to. And so I'm going to put it back on us. Right? I'm not just saying you guys. I'm included in this. Are we just a little greedy? Like, to think that we should have an all Madden team by the players that we think that we should go out and bring in? I think it's kind of crazy to think that not many teams have a team like we do, or not many franchises have a team like we do that is this deep, that have this many, all Pro Bowl, division leader, or NFL leaders with as far as stats. I mean, not many teams have what we have, and we think that we should be that much better with another top tier defensive edge or defensive end, or whatever the case may be, whatever the player is, whatever the position is. We feel like we should have the best of the best of the best. And you know what? I would agree. I mean, I want to have the best of the best, but at the same time, man, is that really unlikely? And I feel like Lions fans, including myself, We are kind of a little greedy right now. We want that instant gratification because we've been waiting for so long. And this is no different, right? I mean, I think that we feel like we are owed something here. We beat ourselves. We shouldn't have let the Cowboys hang around. And some of the calls that day, it hurt us. Going back and looking at that game, that was the refs that gave us a problem. But I would also implore you to consider just for a moment, if Dan Campbell, and I'm not saying that they did anything wrong, but if Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson were trying to be too sneaky and they kind of, outdid themselves because they really pulled one. I mean, they pulled it perfectly, but they did it too good to where, you could say that it confused the refs. I think the refs were just full of shit. Sorry, excuse my language this morning, but I just feel like they were full of it. And it was clear that they were full of it. But you know what? We're not going to let them get us down this year. Brad Allen's not going to be there. There's going to be some other ref that's going to be ref in this game. And I don't want to piss him off by doing a podcast today, trashing the refs so that they, walk into this. I'm going to get those lines, fans. You never know what these guys are thinking. You just don't know. Any thoughts on that? Then let's get into some odds and predictions by FanDuel.
So I'm looking at the stats for the last game from last year.
Yeah.
Okay. The Lions lost 20-19. Jared Goff threw 2 interceptions. Okay. The Lions were 4 of 13 on third down.
It's terrible.
That's dog crap. So there's a couple things right there. We clean those 2 things up. We're better on third down. Let's say we're 8 of 13. Way better. And 0 interceptions. That's the game we need to play on Sunday for us to win right there. We do those 2 things, no problem, because we have a hell of a run game. Our passing game is starting to catch fire now. Sam Laporta is back in the mix. Amon-Ra's back in the mix. And now you got J-Mo in the mix. That dude is an absolute wild card. This game is going to be a lot of fun on Sunday. I'm going to the Ford Field watch party, hopefully for the second half, so I can watch the second half of the game and watch my Lions beat the Cowboys.
It sounds like a fun time. Eric should not have an echo anymore. I just turned off desktop audio, but hopefully you can you can still hear him. But appreciate you for letting us know that.
Yeah, thanks.
So you mentioned a few things there. The third down conversion rate.
Yeah, horrible. 4-13.
You can't. I mean, you've got to be plus 75%. I feel in conversions.
Yeah.
I think that that's a good place to live. I mean, it's not often that teams can pull that off, but I think that this team can. But you also mentioned something that's really important for this game. Sam Laporta. The fact that he's starting to come alive at the right time. And there's also something else that's happening right now. The Detroit Lions have left the bye week behind them, and they are at full strength, as full as they can be right now. So it's good news coming out of the bye week. They did it right, putting Frank Ragnow, kind of on a back seat. He wanted to play. Got to save him from himself, right? It was good to get him down for a game so that he could rest and be ready to go. But the Lions offensive line had their best game without him. And that spooks me a little bit because I don't want to take a step backward. And you would never think that Frank Ragnow would be a step backward. You would only think that it would be better. So I'm really curious to know what was different for Ben Johnson in this game and Dan Campbell. Like, what did they do different? Because whatever they did and Hank Fraley for this offensive line, they need to do it again. Like, whatever they figured out, just because you had new bodies in places that they're not supposed to be, doesn't mean that you should change the scheme back to where it was prior to that when you reinsert Frank Ragnow. I think they figured something out. Are they going to continue to utilize it? Now, I have not broken down the offensive line. That is one area that I am definitely not well versed in as much as I wish I was. But I'll spend time throughout the year trying to train myself up so I can talk more intelligently about it. But I would love to get an offensive lineman's perspective as to what was different in that game versus the previous, 3 games, because it was a much different performance from that offensive line. So, all right, let's get this in here. Mahogany is back, and Broderick Martin working with the trainers yesterday. So another spot on call by Rock Down Detroit Lions. Little birdies are telling me that Broderick was going to be on his way back. Now, it hasn't been printed by anybody. Nobody else is talking about it. I just happened to get a little bit of information that I was allowed to share, and that it was Broderick is working his butt off right now, and that timetable has not been set yet. They have not enacted his practice window, but they did for Mahogany, which we expected at some point Mahogany was going to come off of the NFI list. Now, last year they did it with Hooker. I think it was like week 12 or 11 that they ended up getting him up because they didn't want to toll his first year. But given the fact that we do need some depth right now, and he does need to get some practice in, it looks like Mahogany is going to be coming back much sooner. He might be one that has to stick on the practice, under the practice window for the entire 3 weeks, just given the nature of the fact that he hasn't really done a whole lot. But it's good to see that we're gaining some opportunity here. If Peter Van Larhoven, if you're talking about Mahogany, is there a reason why we are rushing this guy? I would just say that the Lions want depth, and they need depth headed into the playoffs. I mean, look at the situation we are in. If we're down Frank Ragnow, and if we happen to go down another guard, or a tackle even, who do we really have behind him? I mean, is Kobe Sorsdahl the answer? Absolutely not. But I don't want to get too far off into left field with other things that I really haven't prepared for this morning. I would just say we can never not have enough depth right now. We're going into, the part of the schedule right now that we have to win. We have to be solid right now. We have to finish this quarter undefeated, in my opinion. So predictions for the game this week, or I'm sorry, odds and predictions is what it's called. But FanDuel has the spread as -3. The Lions are going down the favorites. Money line is -168 to the Lions, +142 on the Cowboys. The total over/under for the weekend's game is 52.5 points. So there it is. Here's some notables for the Lions versus the Cowboys betting trends. The Lions are 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 games. The Lions have lost 6 straight games to the Cowboys. That will change. Lucky number 7 this weekend. The Lions are 6-1 against the spread in their last 7 road games. The over is 9-3 in the Lions' last 12 games. I'm not sure what that means. The over is 9-3 in the Lions' last 12 games versus NFC East opponents. Okay. The Cowboys are 3-7 against the spread in their last 10 games. The over is 8-3 in the last 11 meetings between these two teams. And the Cowboys are 16-3 straight up in their last 19 home games. So there you have it. There's your notables on betting trends. We'll try to reintroduce that each week. It's something I forgot to do the last 4 weeks. But anything you want to add to that before I jump into the injury report?
Sure. So 70% of the bets that have been made so far have been made on your Detroit Lions.
There we go.
70%.
All right. Well, hey, good morning to the chat. Peter Van Larhoven's in here. We got Trace moderating as usual. Appreciate you, Trace. Ryan Van Valkenburg moderating, both members. We got a lot of members in this morning. Ornery U of M Dad, DLR Van Halen, King SJ, all the way from Toronto. We got Jay-Z in the house. David Barnett, Motown Mitch, Josh Jackson. And by the way, Motown Mitch, I did get an email from somebody that accepted your consolation prize giveaway. So I'll be getting that mailed out. We usually mail out middle of the month. So I'll be getting that mailed out to them. And it will go to a veteran. I believe the gentleman's name was Anthony Tottingham, if I'm remembering correctly. Josh Jackson's in the house. Roger Olowski, Zachary Cleary, Angela Gore. The Ones is in the house this morning. We got Pat Beach, Mr. Morel Tarantino, Bruce MacArthur, Richard Blakely. Man, my eyes are bugging today. Fred Peterson, Let's Go Lions. That's right. Let's Go Lions. He says revenge, or he, she. I'm not sure who Let's Go Lions is, but good morning. And that's about it for today. So injury report. I look back at week 5 for the Cowboys. So I wanted to kind of paint a little bit of a picture here as to what they're facing, because we just don't know, until, Wednesday afternoon, today afternoon, where their first set of injuries are going to be. But there's a little bit of information that's helping us so far. So last week they were without Micah Parsons, quarterback Trey Lance, no big deal, cornerback Kalen Carson, running back Deuce Vaughn, defensive end KJ Henry, offensive tackle Matt Waltzko, and tight end John Stevens Jr. Now, headed into week 6, I've been able to pull down a little bit of information to what we are looking at so far for the Cowboys. So Micah Parsons, highly questionable to play. Kalen Carson, questionable. He should play. Marshawn Kneeland should be out. He was scheduled to have a surgery, I believe, and we'll get into that. Tyler Guyton, their offensive tackle selected in this year's draft, he is also questionable, more than likely going to play. So let's talk about Marshawn Kneeland. He was a player that many Detroit Lions fans had felt would have been a good fit in Detroit. I thought he was a great fit. Would have loved to have seen him taken somewhere in the mid-40s, but I think he was taken much earlier than that, if memory serves me correct. But Marshawn Kneeland is a rookie second-round pick, expected to garner a ton of reps in the wake of both Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence suffering injuries in week 4. Now, DeMarcus Lawrence is also expected to be out for this game. And he was knocked out of the game against the Steelers this past weekend with a non-contact knee injury. We know what that means. It means that he's not going to play. It means that he's got a bad enough injury that it required some sort of a surgery. He was carted off in the game, did not return. And according to a quote from Mike McCarthy, we don't have a total timeline, but he's scheduled for procedure on Tuesday is the initial plan. We'll see how that goes. I can't imagine in any world where you have a procedure on a Tuesday and you're playing in a game on a Sunday. Just not going to happen. So if they're down Marshawn Kneeland and Micah Parsons and Lawrence, this defense is in trouble. And not only are they in trouble, I mean, they've kind of been in trouble. They do not have the best PFF grades. We know that PFF is not the only answer. We do the eye test as well. And I think this week what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to schedule a tape review, and that'll be the Cowboys tape. Let's go back and look at the Pittsburgh game and just kind of roll through it. So I'm going to schedule a tape review and see if anybody would like to join to do that. And we'll do that weekly moving forward so we can kind of look at our opponent. Deron Bland. Deron Bland missed the first 5 games of the season with a stress fracture in his foot. He has a shot to make it back for the Lions game on Sunday. Now, the Cowboys executive VP Stephen Jones said that Bland could at least have a limited role when the team takes on the Lions at AT&T Stadium on Sunday. I'm not so sure, but he's clearly their best backfield player. I mean, what he pulled down last year, like 6. Did he have like 6 pick sixes or something crazy last year?
5.
And 5. It was nuts. Whatever it was a lot.
Yeah, he broke the record. 5 pick sixes.
Yeah. So Jerry Jones was quoted on Tuesday as saying that I think Deron Bland has a real chance. I don't know if he'll play the whole game, but I think he's ready to start mixing it up. Short of a real setback, Deron should be ready to dress and help us on the defensive side of the ball and the secondary. Now, in Bland's absence, the Cowboys have started 3 different cornerbacks in the previous 5 games. Rookie Kalen Carson started the first 3 games, but suffered a shoulder injury. In the last 2 weeks, Andrew Booth and your previous Detroit Lion, Amani Oruwariye, have started opposite each other, and Trayvon Diggs. Please have Amani in there. Just please have Amani in there. That's all I'm asking for.
If they're starting Amani, then something is seriously wrong down there in Dallas.
Well, they're short on talent. And so, like I was saying in the beginning of the show, like, we have an embarrassment of riches on this team. And to think that we could make it that much better by just pulling in, first rounders, former first rounders, and, top tier edge, it's highly unlikely. And then you look at a team like the Cowboys that, they've always seemed to put together a good roster. I mean, they've got Amani O starting. Like that's a problem. I know injuries are a real thing, but that's a big problem. Here's what I will say about DaRon Bland, whether he plays or he doesn't. But if he does, I've said this for just about every player that comes back from, what would be a major injury. They are not going to have a good first game. They just don't. It's extremely rare. Anybody coming back from an injury is going to feel a little tepid, right? They're trying to feel it out. They're scared of getting hit, and they have to get hit to finally gain some confidence. And take a couple of hits, give a couple of hits, especially if you're on the defense, to start to feel normal again. And I just don't expect DaRon Bland to have a good game, coming back. One against the Lions, which is a very fast offense, and trying to keep up with us. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. Micah Parsons suffered an ankle injury. Now, Parsons obviously is a big-time figure for this Cowboys defense. He's been sidelined due to this ankle injury that he suffered back in Week 4 against the New York Giants. Now, in his absence, it left a big hole in this defense because, his teammate DeMarcus Lawrence is now on IR. And he suffered, I think, a Liz Frank injury. I think it was the same game. They both went down.
Yep.
Here's a statement by Mike McCarthy. He said he was in Monday for treatment, talking about Micah Parsons. So I'll probably have a better gauge of that on Wednesday. That's why I said earlier, Wednesday is so important for the first week or for the first crack at the injury report. If he has a chance for Detroit, is what he was referring to. So he's got some work to do. Saw him Saturday before we left. We knew that this week was going to be a stretch. So we'll have a better gauge once we get to Wednesday, which means they'll have their chance to practice and kind of get after it. He also went on to say that, he's close, or Jerry Jones went on to say, he's close. The real question for me is how close. And no one knows what that is at this time. We'll have to see how the week goes. So with Dallas's bye week right around the corner, I feel like it does impact the decision. Whether you put him in now or you just like Frank Ragnow, you reserve him for a week and you allow him to get an extra week in, of rest and rehab and treatment so that he doesn't re-aggravate or re-injure, the same injury again this week. Because I'll tell you right now, if you're going to try to stop this bowling ball named David Montgomery, he's going to bring it. I mean, you look what he did to Devon Witherspoon last week. He's going to bring it. He's going to give you, just as big of a hit as you're trying to give him. And so trying to chip away at Micah Parsons, I'm sure would be the game plan to go after him early and often and just kind of wear him down. So with those injuries, kind of on the forefront here, DeMarcus Lawrence is out. Micah Parsons is more than likely out. DaRon Bland may have a shot, but Marshawn Kneeland is also out. I mean, that's three big defensive players for the Cowboys. And, you're starting rookie cornerback in Kalen Carson, which Kalen's good, but I want to say he was like a third or fourth round pick, if memory serves me right. He's a good corner, but he's not, a top billing, when it comes to, comparing him to a Terrion Arnold or an Ennis Rakestraw. He's just not. He's not yet anyway, and he could be in the future, but he's not right now. So with those injuries kind of on the forefront right now, what are you thinking, Eric?
Listen, every team we've went up against this year has had injuries all over the place. We're facing third string right tackles every game. I don't know if this game's going to be any different. But it seems like every week, I don't know if it's a built-in excuse or what, but the team we're facing every single week is riddled with injuries. And then sometimes they come out and play us like crazy, and you think we're going to roll all over them, and their third, fourth stringers come out and play with their hair on fire because they're playing the Lions. And I think that's what it is teams are circling us on the schedule now as the team to beat. We're the hunted, we're not the hunters anymore. So we're going to get their A game. I don't care whether it's the third, fourth, fifth string guys. We're going to get the best they have.
I would agree. How many likes do we have? Do we got a status report? We want to get these ads turned off. We need a little status report. I see Ornery UVM Dad is a little ornery right now. He says nine more likes to go to hit 50. Come on, let's get it. Yeah. While you guys are smashing that like button, let's take a listen to one of our sponsors.
Every day, thousands of people are discovering Uper Lights, Michigan's newest, funnest rock to go find on the shores of the Great Lakes. Don't go out with just any light. Try the Convoy C8 from uperlights.com. It's guaranteed for life, and you'll find all the ones everyone else misses. Quality UV lights that are perfect for Uper Lights with prices starting as low as $20. Please make sure to visit uperlights.com for all your UV flashlight needs with the best guarantees on the market. Just what you wanted and not what you didn't. The best quality, the best guarantees, and the best UV flashlights from uperlights.com.
Make sure you guys visit uperlights.com after the show. Not only are you supporting the channel, you are supporting a local small business owner. They do an excellent job over there. Wish I knew who the owner was, man. They do an excellent job over there. Here's and by the way, I turned ads off. I gave you guys the benefit of the doubt that you'll get us above 50 in no time. So here's where I'm at with Dallas. I think that they've got tough sledding in front of them, man. Jared Goff. Now just listen to the quarterbacks: Jared Goff, Brock Purdy, Kirk Cousins, Jalen Hurts, C.J. Stroud, Jaden Daniels. That's the next quarterbacks they face through week 12. Mm-hmm. I see multiple losses. Now, obviously, the 49ers are in trouble. Kirk Cousins is starting to find his way. Philly might have A.J. Brown back by that game. You can never count out Houston. And Jaden Daniels, best quarterback in the league right now for rookies. And really, really having a put together good season, I should say. So in any one of those games, the Cowboys can lose. I mean, I could say that they would split maybe at the best here. They're going to start with an L this weekend, and I think that they would probably split, those 6 games right down the middle, go 3-3. Good morning, Riley O'Brien. Brian, I saw your message. I'll get back to you today too. Promise you. Let's start with this next segment here. Let me check the roster, make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Lions news and rumors. Anything that you have, Eric, before we get rolling on Lions news and rumors? Anything painting your screen today?
Let me see. What did I have? Nope, nothing this morning. It's pretty quiet right now. Just the fact that the last time the Lions beat the Cowboys was 2013.
Yeah, that's got to change.
So, yeah. It doesn't matter if we're home or away. October 27th, 2013. It's been a couple of years since we've beat the Cowboys. It's time to change that.
Well, this is not really a Lions news and rumors, but didn't you say that Robert Saleh was going to be the first head coach fired this year?
I did predict that way early this year.
That just popped into my brain. I'm like, Eric, you totally predicted that.
Yeah. And I flat out said it, and oh man, it's funny because somebody on Facebook went after me because I predicted that. And I'm like, just because you wanted him to come to the Lions instead of Dan Campbell, man. And they're getting after me like, oh, well, who did you want? You didn't want Saleh. And I was like, no, I was the only one, like, out of all my friends that was like, no, I don't want him. I don't want him. And they're like, well, who do you want? I was like, anybody else. I don't care. And I don't know. It's just something about that whole 49er vibe. I don't want bang, bang Niner gang anywhere close to my Detroit Lions. I just didn't want that vibe. I didn't want that mentality. I don't like it. And I don't know how to explain it. It's something different, like a gut feeling, I'm kind of like a dog. When a dog meets a person, a dog can tell right away whether that person is a good person or a bad person without meeting them anything. That's kind of how I am with that whole situation. I was just like, something's telling me stay away, stay away, and I'm glad we did.
Well, maybe I'm a good dude because this dog that we're fostering, Sadie, which by the way, she's looking for a forever home. She's a 5-year-old. She's like a lab mix. I can look at the paperwork later, but cute little dog, super snuggler, trained, listens. I mean, she alerts. She's a very good dog. She just sits right here on the podcast studio floor. It's a raised floor, and she'll just sit right here all day. And she's just been one that just follows me around. You know, wants to make sure I'm okay, but listens very well to me. So I must be a good dude. I must be doing something right.
There you go. You must have just got a new dog.
No, it's hard, right, to give them away, but
it is.
Yeah. I'd say the biggest Lions news and rumors this week is Brian Branch and Frank Ragnow back, which, you know, we're back kind of to full strength as best that we can get right now. And I smell like bacon. I wish, because that would mean that I ate some. I don't eat bacon a whole lot anymore. I wish that I did, but man, now BLT sounds really good. I'm gonna have to get one today. So let's talk about this Robert Saleh, you know, firing just real quick.
Yeah.
You know, I think he's getting the raw end of the stick here. I think that Karen is really been the one calling the shots. And for whatever reason, you know, he's getting the raw end of the stick here, that he's getting pushed out. And I don't even understand it. He didn't throw the interception to end the game.
No.
Right? Robert didn't do that. Karen did.
Another thing I heard through the grapevine is that Saleh was going to fire Nathaniel Hackett this week.
Oh.
And before he had a chance to fire him, he got fired. And he was like, oh, that's strange. You know, I was just going to fire Nathaniel Hackett, and now you're going to fire me?
Well, you know, Hackett and Rodgers are attached at the hip.
And he's like, hey, you know, this isn't my fault. I'm not the one that was in Egypt for training camp. I was here the whole time. I was trying to get my team ready to go. I wasn't in Egypt. I wasn't somewhere else where I wasn't supposed to be, you know? So I don't so much put it on him, but I just knew that whole situation was going to blow up. I knew it.
Yeah. Well, you know, Rodgers shouldn't have done all that. And you could tell that there was some issues with that whole, you know, hug, no hug, you know, shove type deal. You could tell that there was something going on there. And they should have never let that play out on national TV. Rodgers should have been, you know, bigger than that. But this is Rodgers, we're telling you. You can't tell that Rodgers is like 46 years old. The dude acts like a child. And look, he's the one that's not playing well. This is not Robert, you know, Saleh's issue. He's going to land on his feet. He's going to be just fine. But I would say this. I wasn't as worried as you were about, you know, him coming to the Lions. He was not my first choice, but I think that we got the better choice because the Lions have, you know, a really solid commanding voice, which is Dan Campbell. So since Dan Campbell's first season, the Lions went 3-13-1, right?
Yeah.
Not many people imagined this kneecap biting Dan Campbell could actually turn around this franchise. Hardly anybody believed it. Now, in his third year, Campbell has now directed the Lions to an historic season, you know, in 2023. They finished the regular season with a 12-5 record that led that tied the single season franchise record for wins in a season. The team went on to clinch their first division championship in the NFC North since 93. But then they fell to the 49ers, right? In a game that, you know, the Lions should have won. And we should have sealed our opportunity at our first trip to the Super Bowl. We should have won that game. Didn't happen, but it will. It'll probably happen this year, is my guess, like I've been saying now for a long time. But more importantly, Dan Campbell right now has a 27-27-1 record, which is among rare air for Detroit Lions head coaches. We haven't had many that have been 500 or plus 500 in the history of this franchise. And so he's joining rare air. And, Robert Saleh just hasn't had the benefit, in my opinion, of good ownership. And I think that's the difference here. You can bring in any coach that you want. I don't care who it is. They are not going to have an easy time rebuilding a team and having success without good ownership. And the Jets' ownership has just always been terrible. They just always have. I mean, I think they're another team that hasn't been to the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Correct? Am I correct in that?
No, they've been there before.
They have?
Yeah. Didn't the Jets make a Super Bowl? Pretty sure they did. And Saleh went 20-36. So he was very much a losing coach for the Jets.
I don't think that they've been to the Super Bowl.
Here, let's ask the old Google machine here.
They won Super Bowl 4? But was it called the Super Bowl? Was that the Super Bowl era back then? Or was it just a championship? I don't know. How many Super Bowls have the Jets won? Okay, so January 12th, 1969, they went to Super Bowl 3. The Jets won 16-7 over the Baltimore Colts. So
they won their lone Super Bowl appearance.
Yeah.
Over the New Orleans Saints in 1970.
So maybe that's what the stats trying to tell me here, that the Jets haven't been to a Super Bowl, in 50-ish years. So, or long more than 50 years. Either way, the Lions, I think, are going to make it to the Super Bowl before the Jets do.
Yeah, and I think a really great motivator.
Oh, you're all good, Peter.
A really great motivator for this week is that Dan Campbell will have a winning record if they win today.
Yeah,
or win this Sunday. He'll be 28-27-1.
Well, I don't know. Do you think that they're keeping track of that? Because he didn't know that Jared Goff was perfect.
He knows.
You know what I'm saying? How do you not know your quarterback's perfect in a game? It's like,
but
geez.
That was in game. He did have the one pass that hit the dirt, but there was a penalty. Even I didn't know it was perfect. You were telling me, in the fourth quarter, oh, dude, he's 17-17. What?
Yeah. Well, Jared threw that in the dirt on purpose because he knew that there was a penalty.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. It was a free play. It was a free play. All right, so let's get into some of this here. What's going well for the Lions? Well, what isn't, I guess, is the question. But offense firing on all cylinders right now. It's made in Detroit. It's stamped in Detroit. It's molded in Detroit. It is the Motor City offense, or as I like to call it, the Motor City Goffense. It's exciting. It's modern. It's explosive, and it's here. They're finally starting to open up the doors. Ben Johnson is finally starting to dip into his bag, and he's starting to mix it up a little bit. The Lions are coming off of a bye week. They have the third best offense in the NFL, averaging 397 total yards per game on 245.8 passing and 151.3 rushing. 151.3 rushing yards per game. The Lions, man, where have we been? Like, we couldn't even get a 100-yard rusher, and now we're just we're on fire. The Lions score an average of 26 points per game, and the Lions have also won their last 2 games, so we have a lot going in the right direction right now. Now, for a history lesson, the Cowboys led the series against the Lions with a 19-12 record, or I should say they lead the series against the Lions with a 19-12 record since 1963. Now, the Lions have visited the Cowboys 16 times, and this is what's not going well. We have a 3-13 record in Texas against the Cowboys. So that's going to have to change. It's going to have to be, we're going to have to get an extra win here somehow. We get an extra few wins. I would say that the Lions are probably going to even out this series. It's going to take about 20 years to do it, but we'll get there eventually. So offense firing in all cylinders. Eric, what do you have to say about that? What has you excited about this weekend? Going back down to Jerry World with an offense that just seems to get it when they need to get it.
Yeah, and I think our offense is finally starting to click, because if you go back to the first three games, it was our defense that was keeping us in the game. Our defense was ahead of our offense. And then the last game, the offense won the game and the defense just kept us kind of in it. We were ahead the whole game and we won by 2 scores, but we gave up a lot of yards in this last game. So our defense didn't look as good as it did the first 3 weeks. And this game has some special meaning. You talk about the history of this game. So if we go back to when Matt Stafford was throwing the ball to his tight end in Jerry World in the playoffs, and there's a flag thrown, and the ref decides to walk over a minute later and pick the flag up and say, oh, there isn't a pass interference call. That would give the Lions the win. We can't do that. So there's a lot of meaning to this game. For me as a Lions fan, this is just one more monkey we need to get off our back. Last year, we got the monkey off our back by winning a playoff game. And then we didn't win 1, we won 2. And then this year, we beat the Seahawks, and now we're going to beat the Dallas Cowboys.
I agree, man. I just want to see us play a complete game versus the Cowboys. That's what I really want to see. And to your point there about giving up a ton of yards, I think that I thought we kind of went over this a few times, but I don't know if you still feel this way or not, but the Lions gave up a bunch of yards when they decided to go back in that, bend but don't break. Let's not give up the big play. Let's make them earn it, 9-10, passes down the field, like make them, not earn it in one pass, make them put it up a few times and hopefully put them into a situation where they make a mistake and throw a pick. So I think that's why you see so many yards. And I feel like some Lions fans, they look at it and they say, well, look, man, the defense isn't that good because we gave up all these yards and, blah, 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 blah. Look, our passing defense is not great right now. There's been way too many penalties. And that is a little bit of a segment we'll talk about, but way too many penalties right now, in the backfield. And that's not helping us. It's keeping the defense on the field. And that's got to change. And I hope that, we're not running into a situation, like I said in the video that I put out the other day about being in the crosshairs of the NFL. Man, we are just getting littered with fines. We're getting littered with penalties. And a lot of them are egregious. A lot of them shouldn't be called. And I feel like if that's going to keep us on the field, our offense has to score every possession, at least 3 points. But we're going to have to score every possession in this game to make me feel comfortable that we're going to win, because I feel like for some reason we're going to be back down in Jerry World and it's going to be flag after flag after flag. And we're going to have to beat the refs, which I hate. I hate those games. But I don't want to put too much emphasis on the yards, and I'm not attacking you, Eric. I feel like many fans do. They look at the stats, but they don't watch the tape. They don't watch the game a couple of times like we do, and maybe give you a little bit of a different flavor of what really happened. So
if you look at the PFF grades for the Detroit Lions defense, they really like what they're seeing. Even though we're giving up quite a few yards, which is fine. It was only one game. But you want to know the thing that makes me really happy this year? We've faced a couple of mobile quarterbacks, correct? Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, and we've limited all of them to, 40 or less yards, right? Right about there. Well, Dak Prescott is another mobile quarterback that we have to play this year. And this year, so far, rushing, good old Mr. Dak Prescott has, in 5 games, 8 carries for a whopping 24 yards with a 3-yard average. He is not running.
Say that again.
So he's got 8 carries for 24 yards with a 3-yard average per rush this year. He is not running. He's not mobile this year. He is sticking in the pocket. And I think that's one thing we might not have to worry about. We might be able to pin our ears back a little bit. And if we break contain and he does go for a rush, well, then you can start holding contain instead of trying to get after him. But I think you might see a sack or two in this game.
You know what? I would say this. I would be careful with the fact that he hasn't done a lot this year as far as, being dual threat. It's when you do pin back and start to get after him that he then can get mobile and find that crease and get out. He has the legs. He can do it.
Yeah.
It's not his first choice. As quarterbacks get older, they tend to realize that running the football all the time is not worth it. And you want to be in the game, not on the sideline. So he can still run. There's no doubt about it. And if he gets a chance to do it, he will. I would say that we have to enter this game with the same mindset that we need to contain and then, allow the push through the center of the defense, force him to make a mistake or step left or step right into Aiden Hutchinson or Josh Pascal, or if we're firing a linebacker, whatever the scheme is for that play. I feel like we're going to be able to put Dak into some situations. Let's just put it that way. I feel like we'll go through that tomorrow. We'll dive a little bit deeper into some of that stuff. Maybe I'll be able to queue up some tape review during the morning show and kind of review it. Or it might be best served to do it on a Thursday night podcast to kind of review it. I don't know how many people are driving into work, but I wanted to answer a question real quick.
Sure.
Who was it? It was somebody asked about the last time the Cowboys came to Detroit. And if memory serves me correct, I believe that was 2019. So the Lions have gone to Dallas 3 times in a row now, I believe. Or is this? Yeah, this will be the third game in a row, 22, 23, and 24 that we've gone to Dallas. So the last game that they played in Detroit was 2019, I believe.
Yep.
So
it was November 17th, 2019.
Okay. Well, there's your answer.
And they beat us 35-27.
Yeah, we haven't won a game in. We haven't won a game since 2013, right?
Yep, and that was at Detroit.
Yeah. At some point, they're going to have to come back to Detroit. If we have to go back to Dallas again next year, the year after, I'm not going to be happy.
Yeah, it's this whole Seattle Dallas every single year. We seem to have to play these two teams. I don't know why.
Well, a lot of it is the way that the first place schedules finish, and and then you've got the the flip flop. How often do you play them? Every second or third season, whatever it is. But yeah, we'll get them back, man. We'll get them back in Detroit, and that's going to be a fun game to be at. All right, so Jared Goff. Let's talk about. I kept hearing this on the podcast. They kept calling Jared Goof, and I'm like, listen, man, put some respect on the dude's name. Like, I'm sick of hearing Jared Goof. What makes him a goof? I don't understand it. Is it because he breaks records? Is it because he's been a leader for quarterbacks the last 3 seasons? I mean, he's pretty much been a leader since he's been in the league. He's had 2 bad years, 2 bad seasons. That was his rookie season when Fisher put him into the absolute worst situation possible. I think it was the last 7 games of the year on a team that was totally decimated. They didn't have anybody. And then 2021, the first year after the Detroit Lions whacked 80% of their roster from the year before and started with nobody, and then the nobodies got hurt. So we had nobody to start week 1. So look, the Jared Goff is not some goof. Yeah, every quarterback makes some stupid decisions, but again, I would implore you to ask yourself, are you being greedy in thinking that these guys are just supposed to be perfect? Because they're not. There's not one quarterback in the league that's perfect. Not one. Well, outside of Jared Goff this year. He was perfect. But you get what I'm saying. Like, they're going to make mistakes. They're going to throw interceptions. They're going to have a pick six, here or there. But if you're winning ball games, I think that's where the buck stops. because last year you had mentioned we threw 2 picks in that game, right?
Yep.
And wasn't the first one to Laporta where Laporta was held on the play or is illegal contact downfield? It was not called. Same thing that we saw at a JMO this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that Jared Goff threw 1 pick because that first one was not his fault. If you're not going to throw the flag, and we have to remember, these are timing plays. So even though there might be a little short window that's open where Goff is trying to fit that ball, if Laporta's getting held, well, he's not going to get to that window. And then the window's shut. And the Cowboys in front of it. So it's just the way the game is. It's just the way the game's been played. Let's talk about Jared Goff for just a second, though. This dude is on pace right now. So for all the haters, Jared Goff, I got to take these off for a second. Jared Goff is on pace in his 4th year with Detroit to have his best season ever as a quarterback in the NFL. He came to the NFL with the LA Rams in 2016. That's no secret, right? He has 1,068 yards passing in just 4 games this season. He is now on pace to break his career best mark of 4,688 yards that he set in 2018. Now, Goff has 5 TD passes so far on the season, and he has already been intercepted 4 times, which is not an alarming amount. If you look back at last season, he kind of threw the most interceptions through like the first 6 or 7 games, and then he, I don't think he threw another one for the rest of the year, or was sparingly, sprinkled in, in a couple of games. Goff has also completed 71% of his pass attempts. He has started 52 games for the Lions and currently has a 27-24-1 record. He is a plus 500 quarterback. If you remember, he missed 3 games in 2021. I believe he had bruised ribs or something, but he was out for 3 games. And that is why he has a winning record and Dan Campbell doesn't. Because Dan Campbell obviously was there for all 3 of those games, but Jared Goff wasn't. So the fact that Jared Goff is on pace to break his best season marks, I think that speaks volumes to how well he's playing right now, even though it may not look the prettiest all the time. And they've gone through a couple of bad games. Maybe didn't put up a bunch of points. Maybe didn't put up a bunch of yards. But he's starting to put it together, and that's the trajectory that we want to see. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think that Goff is going to be just fine. They can call him Goof all they want. Like somebody in the chat said, they call him Mahomes Kermit the Frog. So I take it as flattery. Goff, I don't know. He's got the it, and he's got the grit. Something I can't say we've been missing, but there was just something there. The magic is there with Goff in this team that was missing with Stafford and the teams we had before him. We never could win a playoff game. Well, now we've won playoff games. I'll take a playoff winning in Detroit playoff winning quarterback any day. And Goff has turned into my favorite player for the Lions. As a Lions fan, I absolutely back the dude. I think he's great. Does he throw a few boneheaded picks every once in a while? Sure. But
what quarterback doesn't?
Yeah, every quarterback throws an interception. And didn't Goff have at the beginning of the year last year, he had the longest streak in the NFL?
Yeah, it was like 268 snaps or something like that between interceptions.
Yeah, without an interception. So if he can get back on that again, perfect. Let's do that through the middle of the season. Let's have a long streak, because right now he's doing it through one game. He just had a perfect game, something no other quarterback has ever done. 18 of 18.
Yeah, hold on here. Goff is pretty good. So is Hutch, but you slam him every day. No, I don't slam Hutch. I think what I do with Hutch is I point out the obvious, that I'm not a Kool-Aid drinker. So I'm not going to say everything is all roses and rainbows. I'm going to point out the things that nobody else is talking about. And that's what separates me. I'm not going to deliver you a bunch of blue Kool-Aid muffins every single morning or every time I do a video. No, I'm going to talk to you about the truth, the transparency, and the honesty of your team. And if Hutch is not beating one-on-ones versus third-tier tackles, that is a problem. It is. Tell me it's not. Tell me how it's not a problem. Because pressures right now are not turning into negative plays. And as far as interceptions go, Goff has 4. Patrick Mahomes is 5-0 and he has 6.
Oh, wow.
Jordan Love, I don't even know what his record is, but he has 5.
Yeah,
Kirk Cousins has 5.
Yeah, and Love's only played in 2 or 3 games.
Right. Sam Darnold has 4. Brock Purdy has 4. Bo Nix has 4. Caleb Williams has 4. Aaron Rodgers has 4. Dak Prescott has 4. Geno Smith has 4. Tua Tagovailoa has 3, and he hasn't even played but 2 games this season.
Yep.
Bryce Young has 3. He got benched. Matthew Stafford has 3. Deshaun Watson has 3. CJ Stroud has 3.
He's pretty average on the whole interception train.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got 3 or 4 interceptions through 4 games, you know, you're averaging 1 interception a game right now. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, you're 3-1. And I think you have to go back and look at the interception. So you have to take the one away from J-Mo. That wasn't his fault. That should have been a penalty. So really, Goff has 3. And I bet you I could go back in there and find another one. I can't remember the play right now, but I bet you I can go in and find another one where it was not Goff's fault. So he's really only sitting at 2 right now. And I'll just be straight up. I do not slam Hutch. I'm just honest. And in matter of fact, if you come in and watch the tape, anybody that's been in doing a tape review that's in this show right now, that's in the chat, please tell people what I say about Hutch, because I give him a bunch of credit. And I show the plays that he's doing absolutely, wonderful on. And then I will show the plays where there's room for an improvement. If you can't handle constructive criticism, you're never going to grow. I've heard a lot of constructive criticism through the comments in the chat or whatever about my podcast or, whatever. And I take it all and I use it to my benefit. Going through the classes that I go through, trying to learn about scouting and look, I get a lot of constructive criticism. If I wanted to be a Lions homer, I wouldn't be doing you any service, right? I mean, Eric is more of the positive, everything is always roses and rainbows, but we'll also give you the straight up too. Yeah. And me, I'm just going to give you the straight up.
I'll tell you this right now. I'm the biggest Lions homer. I am. And I love the Detroit Lions. I drink the Kool-Aid every morning. But I will tell you this. It infuriates me to no end when Hutch crashes down trying to get a sack on every single play with the spin move and the quarterback runs around the outside and off for a first down. That infuriates me to no end. I would rather he just stayed home. The sacks will come. They'll come naturally. And it seems like sometimes he tries to force it. So that I will say. I will say that Hutch tries to force the sack sometimes when he should just stay home, do his job. Just do your job. That's it. If Hutch gets the defensive player of the year, great, because I got a couple of bets on it. I'll make a whole bunch of money. But if he doesn't, he doesn't. One thing before we go on, Fred Peterson says, who was the last perfect QB? Goff. No goof. He's my QB. Well, me too, Fred Peterson, and thank you for the super chat.
1000%, man. Let's get you a JMO TD.
Jameson makes the catch. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, number 9.
All right, so real quick here on Hutch or anybody else or defending Goff. I also criticize Goff at times. You know, I'll be straight up in the tape review when I'll say, hey, look, you know, I can't go over everything in a podcast. You just can't. I mean, there's no way I can get everything out in one show. It's over multiple shows. It's over multiple videos. But in the tape review, you know, even as recently as last weekend, I said that, look, Goff's holding the ball too much. On that throw to Montgomery, right, the best catch and run of the game where he completely destroyed Devon Witherspoon, he was holding the ball. He could have hit Montgomery way earlier. And matter of fact, he had an open guy over the middle that he missed. And I've said that time and time and time again, that if he's holding the ball too long and he's got his eyes, you know, pinned on somebody, that's a problem. But I watched Goff go through 1, 2, 3, hold, then ball was out. Yeah. He could have got the ball earlier. So I go both ways with it, the good and the bad, with all the players. Some I just key on a little bit more because Aiden is a second-round pick. And, yes, he's an absolute animal, one of the best defensive ends in the league. But I got to see the guy win against third-tier tackles because when he goes up against first-tier tackles, what's going to happen? And that has been an indictment that I have placed above him for a long time coming out of college because his final year, he had, 19 sacks for Michigan, something like that. It was the only year that he had a crazy stat line like that. But that year, he went up against an average rated offensive line that was 80th or worse in FBS out of 130 schools. And he had 3 sacks against Ohio State. I think he had 1 against Michigan State. So I've done my research, and I watched where he disappeared against the good schools, and then he had great stats against the crap schools. Ohio State was the only school that he actually had a decent game against. But he was also on an extremely loaded defense. Loaded. I mean, you want to talk about an all-Madden team. That defense was crazy loaded that year for Michigan. But since I separate Saturdays and Sundays, I'll say, Hutch, you're a rookie. Now I want to see what you do at the pro level against good offensive lines. Now, if you go back and look at all the years and all of the games that Hutchinson has had sacks, go look at where those offensive lines are rated. Multi-sack games, he's gone up against the worst offensive lines in the league. I don't make the stats. I'm just here to tell you what they are. So you can deduce from that what you will, but I'll just leave that little nugget out there. Love Hutch, love what he does. I'm glad he's a Detroit Lion. But man, he could be so much better if just a couple of things were done a little bit differently. And we'll let Terrell Williams figure that out. I think that they're working perfectly together. So we'll move off of that now.
Sure. Hey, so kind of on the whole Hutch thing. So Hutch was drafted number 2 overall, and number 1 overall by the Jacksonville Jaguars was Trayvon Walker. Have you heard about this crazy trade that the guy from ESPN has put out there?
No, what?
Okay. So this is from a guy named Benjamin Solak of ESPN. Defensive end Trayvon Walker had an encouraging 2023 season after a relatively quiet rookie campaign. While he still has a long way to go, he's quickly solidifying his place as a franchise cornerstone for the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's why it was odd to see Benjamin Solak of ESPN suggest the Jags trade the first overall pick in the 2022 draft for a ham sandwich.
What?
Solak put together a list of proposals ahead of the November 5th deadline and suggested the Jags send Walker to Detroit, pointing out that they could still be sellers in spite of racking up their first win of the season. His reasoning for dealing the former Georgia Bulldog is that he's been inconsistent, but could still net Jacksonville a pair of late round selections.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
I'm not against it. I mean, I would never be against being able to pick up a player for a ham sandwich. I mean,
yeah.
I'll even throw a turkey one in there.
Yeah, could you imagine having the number 1 and number 2 overall picks from that draft, that'd be and there's your defensive end that everybody's clamoring for right there. There you go. But how we can ever afford two of them? There's no way.
Well, I mean, you can afford him on a rookie contract right now, and I don't know all of Walker's stats, but I could tell you this. He has not benefited from having good coaching around him. He has not benefited from the likes of a Terrell Williams, or even a John Scott from last year, or a Todd Wash, which is around for the Lions. He was a great defensive mind. He has not benefited from having an opportunity to grow. And he was very raw when he was coming out of school, very raw. And that was one of the biggest knocks on Walker, was that he was probably a little bit too raw and was going to need some time to develop. But since you're talking about trades and all that stuff, let me throw my hat in the ring.
Yeah.
So I mentioned a player a couple weeks ago for a linebacker position. And then I mentioned it again when Barnes went down. And I need to find his splits at exactly where he plays more often, because he is a middle linebacker and he was just released by the Eagles yesterday. So Devin White, linebacker for the Eagles, formerly of the Tampa Bay Bucks, and that is the biggest reason why I liked him, was the time that he spent in the Tampa Bay defense. But snaps by position, can he fit into an outside linebacker role is the question that I have. I know he can play middle linebacker pretty well, right? He's not going to take Jack Campbell's spot anytime soon, but can he fit into a role where he's able to be utilized as an outside linebacker? Now, this guy has had some pretty solid numbers. I think he had a 7 or a 9 sack season just in the last couple of seasons. But let me look here. So he's been primarily in the box. No crap. I would like to see detail. There we go. So primarily in the box, 877 snaps, left inside linebacker. There we go. 217 snaps, left linebacker, 166, middle linebacker, 148, right inside linebacker, 219, and then right side linebacker, 124. So he is somebody, now that I'm actually looking at his splits, he does fit. And talking about ham sandwiches, the Lions no longer have to trade for Devin White.
Yeah, they can just pick him up.
He's available, and he doesn't have to go through waivers. So you just have to get a contract done. So Devin White, in my opinion, should be on a plane to Detroit. I would hope that he is, because this is somebody that can step right in right now. And I would say that he probably wouldn't be any worse off than what we had in Barnes. But again, I have to do a little bit more research on him to kind of figure out just how good. I haven't watched any tape on him, because he hasn't really played this year for whatever reason. But he signed a 1-year, $4 million deal, and now he's been released by the Eagles, so they're going to have to pick up all of that. And that means that he could probably sign a vet minimum deal with the Lions. Maybe you get him on a 2-year deal, relatively inexpensive deal, just to get him under contract. But he is somebody that I would keep your eyes out for. It's somebody that I called for the Lions a couple of weeks ago, and now he's been released by the Eagles.
But why was he released?
I don't know. I don't.
Played down for him.
What's that?
He didn't play a single down for him, it said.
Hasn't played at all this season, no.
Yeah.
But let's take a look at his.
Oh, and I figured out what the ham sandwich was too, by the way.
Okay.
So they say the Lions get edge Trayvon Walker, and the Jaguars get a 2025 4th round selection and a 2026 4th round selection. For
Do
2
it.
fourths, dude, right now, I'll take them.
Yeah, that's obviously.
That's my kind of ham sandwich. Got mayonnaise on it and everything. Perfect. Big piece of cheese. Awesome.
Yeah, I would do it, but at the same time, I'd have to do a little bit more research before I did something like that. Here's what I'm looking at for Devin White. In 2023, he played in 933 snaps. So how do you go from playing 933 snaps with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to 0 with the Eagles? 0.
I have to wonder, is it injury or is it an attitude thing?
I don't know, but he had 3 sacks last year. He had 27 pressures. He had 6 quarterback hits, 18 hurries, 1 batted ball, 54 tackles. He only missed on average 10.6% of his tackles, which is beautiful.
Didn't he have the almost interception of Goff in the playoffs? Hit him right in the breadbasket and he dropped it.
It might have been. It might have been him.
It was right in the end zone.
Might have been him.
Sure that was Devin White.
So he had 31 stops. He was targeted 45 times, so he had a 71% completion rate, 354 yards on 32 receptions, so it's 11.1 average. So his coverage is probably a little bit suspect, but when you are in a defense like we have that has better players around you, I would say that would probably be marginalized a little bit. He did give up quite a bit of yak yards, 184. So there's some things you can work with here. Now his best season, I think it was 2022. He had 6 sacks. In 2021, he had 4 sacks. And in 2020, this was his best season. He had 9 sacks. So the guy does get around the ball, and he played 1,200 snaps that year. That's crazy. I don't know about his injury history. Let's take a look real quick. This website does a really good job here. Wow. No injuries. Not one.
So that makes me wonder if it's an attitude thing.
I don't care if it is at this point. You can take a risk on one guy. But I think that if you look at, let's take a look at the Eagles depth chart and see if we see a reason as to why. Because I don't understand how a player that has been, fairly consistent, pretty solid year after year is not getting in the game. So he is sitting behind Bryce Huff, Jeremiah Trotter, Nakobe Dean, Josh Sweat. Oh, yeah. This is a depth chart issue, Eric.
Yeah.
He's behind Nolan Smith, Jeremiah Trotter, Bryce Huff, Zach Bond, Nakobe Dean, Josh Sweat, and Brandon Graham. So it's a 3-4 defense. So, you have four linebackers, and then you got 4 backup line, and they're all good. And then they also brought in Jalix Hunt this year. So, yeah, it's a depth chart thing. That's all it is. I'd say the Lions better pick up the phone. We need a linebacker in the worst way. And your buddy Tony would probably tell you the same thing, right?
Oh, yeah. Steve K says the Cannon Fire podcast stated it was a coach's decision to bench Devin White, relationship issues.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I'd probably have a relationship issue too if I'm not getting in the game. So Brent Lighton says that Devin White's been consistently bad for years. I don't see that. I mean, his stats definitely don't say that.
Bunch of people in the chat saying they wish they had a ham sandwich now. They're all hungry for ham sandwich. Might have to bring one on the show tomorrow.
Scheme is everything, right? Sometimes players do well in a new environment, and I would say that the Lions have a very good environment for players that have experience. When we looked at Carlton Davis, he didn't have the best stats. He didn't look the greatest on paper. Dude's been playing lights out this year. I think he's been exactly what we needed. And you bring in another Tampa Bay guy that has some, experience playing with Carlton Davis, that helps, right? So if you can, piggyback these guys a little bit with some players that they've played with, I think that does help your team kind of get over that, the chemistry hump, if you will. But it is what it is. We've got to see. We've got to see if he's a fit. We'll see if the Lions can make it happen. At the end of the day, I'm going to trust what Brad Holmes does because so far he just hasn't done anything. What else do we have for today? Anything else on your mind? I think the last thing that I was going to go through was penalties.
Okay.
Anything before we get to penalties?
Let me see here. Okay. The Dallas Cowboys have a point differential of -4 points right now. So that's not very good. That would suggest that they haven't been playing so hot. And then
that can be read two different ways. Either their defense is playing good and they're keeping, the opponent score down, and their offense isn't doing well. They're not scoring enough points, which would kind of keep that score close. I don't even know who the Cowboys have played this year, so we're gonna have to pull that up.
Yeah. And Dak Prescott is number 2 in yards right now. He's at 1,424 yards, just behind Geno Smith. And their rushing leader for the year, let me see, who is it? So their points per game, they're scoring 23.4, and their opponents are scoring 24.2. So they're 23rd in the league. They're 31st against the rush. They're allowing 82 yards per game. And then passing yards, they're allowing the third fewest at 286. So I think they're kind of stout against the pass, but they're susceptible against the run. That's what it's kind of looking at. And their Dowdle is their number 1 running back. He has 221 yards so far this year. He's averaging 4.1 yards a carry. His longest of the season is 13 yards. And then behind him, you have Ezekiel Elliott, and he only has 98 yards total in 5 games.
He's a trash bin, man.
He's only averaging 3.3 yards a carry. So their rushing offense doesn't scare me. I really think we need to lock down CeeDee Lamb and whoever else they have at wide receiver and tight end, and let them run a little bit if they need to run a little bit, but stop the run on our way to stop the pass. Let's focus on stopping the pass this game. I think that's the strength for us to go against them.
Well, we do know this. The New Orleans Saints use a 4-3 defense in more of a traditional style. And I think that they have been for quite a while.
The Saints.
I don't think that they have changed. I don't think that they have changed, even with Dennis Allen's philosophy there. So with that being said, I mean, if you look at the Cowboys schedule, and I'll come back to penalties in just a second, but if you look at the Cowboys schedule, they went up against the Browns, which had a pretty solid defense. I'm not sure who was injured in that game, but I'll go through all of that tomorrow. They won 33-17 on the road. And then they come home against the Saints, and they get completely pounded, 44-19. Now, I can't imagine that the Saints are much more vertical than the Lions. And I can't imagine that the Saints have a better, run game than the Lions or a better defense than the Lions.
Yeah.
And they completely trounced the Cowboys. So if I were to make a comparison for the game, I would think that whatever the Saints did, you're probably going to see a little bit of a similar situation for the Lions.
Yeah.
One, I think our defenses are going to be fairly similar. And I think our offense is much more vertical. The Lions are going to want to run the ball. They're just going to want to play smash mouth football. We're going to stop the run. I don't think that there's any doubt that we can't stop an aging Ezekiel Elliott, and Rico Dowdle just doesn't excite me against the Lions defense, especially a defense that is, fairly healthy right now. Obviously we're missing, a couple of pieces, but Branch should be back, and he's a big help there in the run game.
I think Branch is going to be huge getting him back.
Oh yeah.
Huge.
It's always big when he's in the game.
So Mike P in the comments says, Eric, the Cowgirls are not healthy. Well, I'm going to say this. You name me one team in the NFL that's not missing a starter on offense and or defense throughout the league.
Oh, it's bad.
Every single team is dealing with injuries. So to me, injuries are no excuse. Next man up. Let's go. They're all NFL players. Got to win. Doesn't matter if you're missing people or not. I'm not going to put an asterisk next to any win that the Lions get.
Yeah, no asterisks for me either. But I think what Mike P is trying to say here is that this is a beat up defense.
Well, they are
for the Cowboys. We're going to have an opportunity here.
Everybody's got people on. And listen, it seems to me that whenever a team is a wounded animal, they seem to play us a lot harder.
That is true.
Because you look at who was it we were facing last week? You know, Hutch was facing a third string right tackle. He didn't get a sack in the game.
Hold on a second. Hold the phone here. So earlier I was talking about Deron Bland.
Okay.
And now I see a report that he was placed on IR on Tuesday.
Oh, really?
And that he's not expected to return until week 8.
Oh, wow.
So how did that get missed this morning? I don't know. But Marshawn Nealon's still out. Micah Parsons is questionable. He's more than likely out. Kalen Carson, his shoulder injury, he's probably going to play. Tyler Guyton should play. But Chuma Adoga and Brandon Cooks are on IR. So there's that. And then DeMarcus Lawrence is on IR. Jordan Phillips is on IR. Nathan Thomas is on IR. Earl Bostic and Samuel Williams are all on IR. So you're right, Mike P. They are not healthy. They are not healthy at all.
Hey, do you remember this? Remember in the offseason, what did Jerry Jones say they were doing this year?
Going all in.
They're going all in this year.
Yep.
The only thing they did was sign CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott.
He was going all into the glory hole, remember?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, how is that going all in? They didn't bring anybody in. Anybody.
Yeah, he didn't do anything. I don't know what Jerry's trying to save money for. You're not going to win without players. And now when you're in the middle of a season, it's very difficult to find players. But my biggest concern for this game is penalties. And in last week that we played, week 4, the Lions had 12 penalties, 101 yards. So when you look at the overall yardage on that team for the CL, we gave them 101 of those yards. So it's too many. There's 7. What's that?
They need to, in practice, they need to get some big orange mittens. Okay. So their hands are like this and they can't open their hands, right? Put some big orange mittens and duct tape them suckers on Carlton Davis and on Terry and Arnold. So they can't use their hands at all in practice. And that's
Carlton's been fine. Like Carlton wasn't flagged for PI in like 23 games.
Well, he was last game.
Yeah, that was last game though.
And he was flagged for defensive holding also. So
I think he'll be fine.
These guys need to quit grabbing jerseys. That's all I need to say is they just need to quit grabbing. And they need to practice that way. If they have to go into a game with mittens on, then go into a game with mittens on. I don't care. We need to stop this damn pass interference crap.
Well, I would say that half these penalties have been
they have been ticky-tacky, but we need to stop it. There's stuff that in the playoffs would never get called, and we're playing playoff style football every game.
Yeah. So last game, there were 7 penalties for defensive holding and pass interference on Carlton Davis. He had 4, and Terry and Arnold had 3. Now, Arnold has been called for PI in every game this season, but I would say that we don't want the aggressiveness to stop. We still need these guys to play aggressive. We need them to stay hip to hip, which Terry and Arnold has done an excellent job staying with his receiver. Now, ticky-tacky or not, yes, I would agree that we have too many penalties. You know, 1 a game can even be too much at times, especially in a dogfight. Now, Detroit and Dallas often make referees work overtime by picking up yellow flags all over the field. It seems like in every game that these two teams get together, there's an exorbitant amount of penalties. The Lions were flagged for the 5th most penalties in the league through the first 4 weeks of the season. And they were flagged for a season-high 12 for 101 yards in week 4 against Seattle. Now, the defense has been responsible for 20 of the 31 accepted penalties for the Detroit Lions. And the Lions in total have been penalized for 307 yards. in the first 4 games, 15th in the league. So I can't imagine. We are dead nuts in the middle with 307 yards. So, I mean, I guess that's a good takeaway that we're only 15th in the league and we're not, more towards first. The Cowboys, though, are the 4th most penalized team in the league, and they have committed 43 penalties that have cost them 331 yards. So I think that a big key to this game, and a key to every game, is going to be penalties. Is it going to be a problem or not? Well, I can guarantee you this. There's going to be some laundry on the field. I just hope that Dallas is continuing their trend where they're going to be more flagged this game. But the fact that it's in Dallas and it's the Lions and what happened last season, something tells me we could play perfect football and we're going to get flagged. So the Lions just need to be able to rise above. And how do you do that, Eric? We got to put points on the board, and then we have to keep points off the board to keep the refs out of the game. It's a lot easier said than done.
Last year's game, the Lions had 6 penalties called against them. The Dallas Cowboys had 5 penalties called against them. So there was 11 penalties in the game, 11 flags. That's way too many.
Yeah.
That means it's going to be flag happy. I don't know who we have for a crew this week. And I just don't know.
Oh, look it up. You should be able to find it. Obviously, I got too many windows open. I'm not going to look it up at the moment here, but
yeah, let's see. Who is the crew for?
Okay. All right. What else do we have for today? It is 9:34. There's a few things I wanted to get to. Let me pull open the roster here. Lions player press conference review. So I don't know how many of you watched the press conference yesterday. You have the Lions media, and then you also have the coaches. I'm sorry, the Lions players media, and then you have the Lions coaches media, where they come in and they talk to the media about what's going on. They usually do it midweek, and I thought that there was some good takeaways from both sides. More importantly, Jared Goff, when he was talking about what this game means, and are they considering it like a revenge game, and so that I wanted to bring in. Let me cue it up here. We'll bring it in. We'll talk about it, and let me find my sheet. We'll bring it in. We'll talk about it, and we'll kind of finish the show out with this stuff. So, Eric, did you find?
Let's see. Week 6 referee assignments. So we're going to go down here. Let's see. Lions at Cowboys. It's the John Hussey crew. So I don't know who John Hussey is. That's not a name that I know.
I don't know who John Hussey is either. Just say who's reffing with him, though?
Just says the John Hussey. We'll go in here and see.
All right. Well, while you're doing that, I'm going to cue this up and just make sure that everyone can hear it. Okay. Oh, we got this thing on the screen here. All right, make sure desktop audio is turned on. All right, so we'll come back to that, Eric. So let's get into what Jared Goff had to say yesterday during the Lions players media.
Back and watched it. You've had some great performances in your career, but did you even kind of shake your head sometimes watching that game against Seattle? It's just how perfect you were. Have you ever been in a group like that?
So the question was, your statement was you've had some good performances in your career, and when you go back and watch the Seattle game, were you surprised at how perfect you were?
For 60 minutes.
I have, yeah. I mean, other games that I felt like I've played even better. I mean, we just had no incompletions, which is rare, but there wasn't like, I felt good. Yeah, I felt good. But I've had games where I feel, you know, even better and things are clicking even more. And I think, you know, we can get there. We can do even better and continue to improve.
Are you one of those guys that's bad on you're hard on yourself even with a performance like that? Where there's some throws where you're like, oh
Sure.
man, I missed this guy, or I should have done that. Or...
Yeah, no doubt. In that game in particular, there's not going to be very many, maybe a couple that I'd like to have back, but yeah, always some that you're looking at trying to improve on. Why didn't I see that? Why didn't I throw it there? And yeah, that game is no different.
How long did being perfect carry on when you got home?
So in that type of a situation, you know, when I went through the tape review with everybody on Saturday, which I would love to get more people involved. And like I said, I'm going to do a Cowboys review, and I'm probably going to do it tomorrow night, probably 7 o'clock ish. Give it an hour. We'll roll through some tape. There was some areas, like I said, that Jared Goff was holding the ball, or he missed, you know, some wide open opportunities. And I think that happens when you're dialed into a play that you feel is going to work, and you're confident that it's going to work. And so he kind of dials in on that one player. Each week, Jared Goff has gotten better and better and better. I feel like he started off really slow. He kind of got huddled into, you know, we're calling this play, I'm going to that player. And I don't know if it's a practice thing where, you know, when you're in practice, you're kind of designed to, all right, we've got to make sure that we can get Gibbs the ball in this play, or we've got to make sure we can get Amon-Ra St. Brown the ball in this play. And you kind of get into that mode. Did that carry over into week 1? You know, did it carry over into week 2, where he was just so dialed in to making sure this player got the ball that he kind of forgot that everybody else was out there? I don't know. It's maybe a wild take, but that's kind of what I've seen Jared Goff progress through in the first 4 weeks, is finding the other players on the field. And then when they added Tim Patrick, I mean, now he's been fully inserted into the offense, and you can see that it's working. So Jared Goff is progressing, and that's exactly what we need to see, is the statement that I'm trying to make.
It didn't carry on very long, no.
You're not looked at as Mr. Perfect?
Nope, not even close.
Last year, guys can't handle it. It was controversial, and some of you guys took it as motivation to go forward, you know, the rest of the season. But
all right, so this is where they're asking Jared Goff about, is this motivation? You know, from what happened last year, does this game carry any additional motivation for you, you know, based on the outcome?
how badly do you want to get them there? Same setting again, going back, you know, this year.
How badly we want to beat them? Yeah, of course. We want to beat them just like we want to beat every other team. And they're a good team. They're an NFC opponent. They're a contending team. And a road win in their place means a whole lot. So, yeah, we want to go in there and try to get a win.
Is that in the back of your head a little bit?
From last year? No, it's a different team. And, no, I think that we all know what happened there at the end. And it was unfortunate the way it worked. But, yeah, we'll be ready this week.
Do you like that, I guess, moment motivated you guys the rest of the year, helped you kind of get back on track?
Did it that moment motivate us? Maybe a little bit, but like it wasn't like I don't want to dwell on something that was 8 months ago or whatever. I don't think we got like screwed intentionally. I think it was just a mistake that the officials made, and it happens, and that type of stuff happens, and you move on. But no, I don't think we take it personally. And yeah, of course, I think it's more on the lines to answer your question is like we haven't beat these guys 2 years in a row, and that's more on our heads of like, all right, like. You know, it's time to try to stop that.
What do you see from it?
So, Eric, I don't know how you feel about that statement, but Jared Goff, I think, is walking the PC line here.
Oh yeah,
where he says, you know, I don't feel like we were screwed intentionally, and maybe they weren't. Maybe they weren't. But he does say that it was a mistake, and you know he may get a letter in the mail now for that statement because you can't criticize the referees. He may get a little letter from Roger Goodell saying, "Hey, here's a $10,000 fine because you said that we screwed up."
No, he kept it. He kept it PC. He's all right.
We'll see. But I'm glad that at least he acknowledged the fact that there was a mistake here, because it was a big mistake. And I don't know how you can screw that up. And I'm not going to go dwell into I mean, if you guys want to see what I put together, just go back in the videos, you know, to that time of the year. I put a bunch of stuff out. Maybe I'll repost it. You know, I will. I'll put it up I'll repost it at the very beginning of the page when you go to the YouTube channel, because I put a lot of information in there. And I don't know how you screw up the fact that Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell are talking to Brad Allen, and then Skipper runs on the. I don't know how you screw that up. I really don't. It just doesn't make any sense to me, but I'll digress.
I know they got a lot of moving parts on the front line, defensive line with injuries, but
Yeah.
still, I think Pittsburgh 225, 312.
Sounds like they're talking in a toilet.
Yeah, they've been playing really good football. They're a good defense. They're well coached. You can tell they're sound. They do a good job. They got a veteran guy, Eric Kendricks, in the middle. Does a good job getting everyone lined up, and they fly around. They're a good defense.
I saw you shared on Instagram the home run that Kerry Carpenter did
Yeah.
last night. Can you just put into words what this sports city is going through right now from your seat?
Yeah, it's fun. The fans are getting to experience what they should experience. Hopefully, we're giving them some fun Sundays, and the Tigers keep winning games, and it keeps on getting more fun.
Do you get to be a fan and like take off the quarterback hat for a minute when you watch these other teams around you succeed and
Sure.
be young again a little
Sure.
bit?
Yeah, I wish I could go tomorrow, but unfortunately, I can't make it. But yeah, I was watching yesterday on TV, and when that happened, I was pretty fired up.
Perfect opportunity to ask this, but one of your nicknames on your Pro Football Reference page is Mr. Perfect. Where does that come from?
Dude, yeah, I know. I think I take that. I don't know. I'm nowhere near it. I never will be. I don't know where that came from, but yeah, it's not something I've proclaimed.
What does a bye week look like for you at this stage of your career?
A lot of laying on the couch, a lot of watching football, a lot of walks with my wife and dog, just hanging.
Any good shows to catch them?
Just a pretty regular dude, don't you say, Eric? I mean, he's lapping it all up, man. He a lot of laying on the couch, hanging with his dog, walks with the wife. Jared Goff, I think, is about as real as they come, man. I think that's the biggest benefit to having somebody like, Jared Goff on this team is there is zero diva in this guy. And you really appreciate, when guys like him win. Let me jump off this for a minute. So when guys like Jared Goff win, I think it's that much more special because he's someone that has been the underdog for a long time. And he's constantly under, scrutinized, with everything that he does, with everything that he says. It just seems like people want to bag on Jared Goff for whatever reason. And I'm not saying he's perfect. He's saying he's not perfect. And he does make mistakes. And we do talk about those mistakes on this channel. But over and above all of the mistakes, Jared Goff has given this city, these fans, us, me included, something to finally be proud about and happy about. I'm not going to over scrutinize the guy for the little mistakes that he makes. He's made some pretty boneheaded moves. That's why I started calling him the broken giraffe, because I hated seeing the guy run. I thought that any moment that he's running around, a mistake's going to happen. And usually it does. So far this year, he's doing okay. But I love seeing the underdogs like Jared Goff win. He was cast away from LA. Sean McVay completely trashed the guy. LA's media circus completely trashed the guy. Detroit news completely trashed the guy. Not just Detroit news, but you know what I'm saying. All the Detroit news, local news. And now he's winning. And he's winning at such a high level. It's something to be proud about. And I hope that people understand that we have something special here. These types of quarterbacks don't come around very often. The fact that he's leading the league, or top 5 in all of the major metrics, going on 3 seasons now, is very special. So that's where I don't understand all of this other criticism. I don't know what it is. I don't know why people want a running quarterback. They don't win championships. Patrick Mahomes is not truly a dual threat quarterback. He really doesn't want to run. He does when he has to. But there really isn't many dual threat quarterbacks that win championships. Look at the history of the Super Bowl. You could probably count on one hand, maybe 1.5 hands, the amount of Super Bowls that have been won by a true dual threat quarterback. So with all that said, what do you think, Eric?
Yeah, he's good enough for effing Detroit. I'll tell you that right now. That's my sentiment all the way. Goff, he's going to do some stuff you don't like, but you know what? You're going to love him when he rushes for a touchdown this year.
So I wish there was a bet that I could make for Jared Goff to get a rushing touchdown, because now he's got one passing. I think he's going to get one rushing as well.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it.
Happen, something down at the 2-yard line or something. They fake it to Gibbs and up the middle, or David Montgomery up the middle, and then he fakes a little toss to the tight end that's leaking out across the middle, and he runs around the end and right into the end zone.
I love it. Lone Spoon 77 says that's coach's talk. He wants revenge. I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, these guys want to win this game. Whether they call it revenge or not, I think that's for the fans to, we kind of pump that energy, right? We're the ones that are driving the narrative with revenge, because we as fans want the revenge for what happened to us. I mean, we had our hearts completely ripped out at the fault of Brad Allen, which I'm still surprised he's reffing in the NFL. Next up, let's listen to a little bit of Aiden Hutchinson. What does he have to say?
That's you're playing for, and it's
My
bigger
bad,
than
Trace.
you.
Hold on. Let me rewind it.
Hey, before we get to football, I've seen a lot of videos lately of you visiting kids in the hospital. I know you stopped a kid who was at the airport who was wearing your jersey. Just why is that a big part of kind of what you feel is part of your role in the community outside of just playing football as well?
Yeah, I think really it's if you're just playing, I think for individual greatness, I think there's this level of emptiness that comes with that. I think because I feel like everything that I've achieved, whenever you reach that, you're always just seeking more. And I think when you have something you're playing for and it's bigger than you, I think it gives it a little bit of depth, and it makes me I don't know, almost more proud of doing what I'm doing, and it makes me more motivated to, you meet these kids, and you're kind of this glimmer of hope, this for 5 minutes or however long I talk to them, and it really just it helps me just to have a deeper motivation than just myself and me wanting to achieve what I want to achieve.
I think that's a very profound and great way to look at what he's doing, being a glimmer of hope. I mean, I try to adopt the same sentiment with the Rocktown Cancer Foundation. It's not about me. It's not about this channel. It's about other people, and listening to players like Aiden Hutchinson and his effect on children, that are battling whatever they're battling. I mean, I think whenever you encounter a child that is battling something, whether it's terminal or life altering, man, that really, really, really pulls at your heartstrings, and you just want to do more. Like you want to save them somehow. And I think it's incredible that Aiden does these things and has these opportunities to help, kids with whatever they're battling in life. So I think it's a great statement by Aiden and what he's doing with personal motivation, and then motivation beyond the gridiron.
Things in perspective too.
Right, for sure.
Hey, I remember talking in the locker room last year after that Dallas game. Y'all were a little pissed off after, obviously. How much did you guys use that as motivation going into the rest of the season? And is that something that's still in the back of your head? Like, hey, we want to get them back. How that ended last year?
For sure. I mean, Dallas, they've gotten us the last couple of years, and as controversial as last year was, it was last year, and so I think we're very hopeful, and we're all just ready to go over here, and we're just we're on a mission this year, and we're not going to let the past define us.
How do you look at them on film? I mean, they have had an up and down start to the season. What stands out as far as Dallas on tape?
Yeah.
Is it just me, or does Aiden sound a little under the weather?
Maybe.
He sounds like he's got that, like me right now. I got that same kind of that voice, the lower voice where you're kind of battling the crud of fall. Hopefully he's not sick.
I haven't gotten to watch a ton of them yet.
What's that?
I hope he doesn't have the crud that I have right now, because for the last week, oh God, I'm out of it.
Yeah.
Because it's a little early in the week, but I think just being in the team meeting, I think hearing that their defense is kind of turning things around these last couple games. They've been playing at a high level, and obviously I think we saw Dak win the game for him, whatever night, maybe a Sunday night. So he's a problem. We got to stop Dak. We got to stop CD, and yeah, it's kind of that's our goal. Those guys really make that.
He seems out of it.
When you see an offense like this, they want to throw the football. Like that's what they do. I think they average only 80 yards per game on the ground, so they're going to throw it. And I think they're number 2 in the league. Do you get excited as an edge rusher when you know that you're going to face an opponent like that? More often than not, is going to give you more chance to sack the quarterback than tackle the runner.
For sure. Yeah, it's I'm sure, I'm not quite sure how they're going to attack it. I bet they're going to try to throw it a lot, but they tried to establish the run game a little bit in their last couple games. So they probably will try to do that against us. So, I think we're ready for all the outcomes that will happen in this game. But hey, if it turns into that kind of game, then I'm all for it.
Even after you guys beat the Rams last year, it kind of sounded like you were not disappointed that you had another home game, but disappointed you couldn't go back to Dallas. I guess just what do you remember about the emotions that you felt at that time?
You're talking about the Dallas game or the? Okay. Yeah, I think we all were very motivated to go back there. I think we all really wanted to play at Dallas for the divisional. That was our goal. Obviously, you can't always have what you want, but we've been blessed with now having to play them 3 years in a row. So it's we get to try again and do the best we can to win the game.
Is that part of the stepping stone of becoming an elite team in the NFC? Is knock off a team like Dallas that you've struggled with, beat San Francisco, obviously we lost with? Are those the kind of measuring stick games somewhat?
I don't know. I think the NFL is so week to week. It's so hard to tell. I mean, we could, it's just there's so many outcomes that can happen in every game, and it's just all about the one-on-one matchups and the matchups for this game. It's just every game pans.
All right, so I'm going to be done with this part here because that's all I wanted to hear right there. Hutchinson himself says it's all about the one-on-ones. And you guys know I've been all over the one-on-ones for Aiden Hutchinson. So I want to see
so differently. That's why
I want to see him be able to win some one-on-ones. So Eric, did you pulled up some PFF grades earlier, right?
Yeah.
Do you have the offensive line ranking for the Cowboys right now?
Don't. Let me see. Where's my PFF stuff? Got all these little windows open.
Here's what I know from the surface look at it without digging in. The Cowboys offensive line right now is ranked 28th in the NFL. They were a top 10 unit in 2023. There's a number of factors, though. They lost Tyron Smith to the Jets after 13 seasons. And right tackle Terrence Steele has allowed 9 sacks. I would expect if Terrence Steele has given up that many sacks, that Aiden's going to be on the right side of the defense a little bit more often in this game. But I was more interested to see if you found any of the offensive line rankings for the week. I mean, the Lions are at number 1. We do know that. And I guess based on PFF, if I were to just look at it real quick, it has... Where does PFF have the Cowboys?
See, I'm not sure how to look at just their offensive line.
Oh, I'll have to show you.
Because it says like in the by team reports, says offense, passing, pressure and depth, receiving, depth and direction, rushing, and then blocking, pass blocking, and run blocking. So I
yeah,
guess
there's other areas. We'll just have to spend some time going over it because you really just got to spend time on these sites to kind of figure out what's available to you.
Yeah.
I always find new stuff, but according to PFF, the Dallas Cowboys are 10th right now. So although the Cowboys offensive line has had been among the 5 best units in the league for years, that position is in jeopardy going forward. The Cowboys left tackle Tyron Smith and center Tyler Biatz, they walked in free agency. So they're dealing with a new center and a new left tackle. And now their rookie left tackle, Tyler Guyton, is set to replace Smith, while Brock Hoffman is expected to play center. And we know that Tyler Guyton has been battling some injuries, expected to be back this week. It did not help that Dallas's right tackle, Terrence Steele, had a very disappointing 2023 season coming back from injury. The team still has one of the better guard duos, though, in Tyler Smith and Zach Martin, but it's unknown how much quality is around them. So here's what I see is happening in this game. One, I think that it's going to be imperative that we get big often against this offensive line. Aiden Hutchinson, DJ Reader, Ali McNeil, Levi O, Josh Pascal. I want to see 5 defensive linemen and edge rushers in this game, running more of like a 5-2-4, if you will, at times, especially if we have these guys backed up. If they're, under the 10-yard line, opposing 10-yard line, I want to see us go big and get after Dak. I want to see us firing some linebackers. The more pressure we can get on Dak early, I think the better we are going to be, because Dak under pressure makes mistakes. Dak does not like pressure. I'm not going to have enough time because we're approaching the 10 o'clock hour, but tomorrow we're going to pick back up on this. We're going to get a little bit more granular into some of the grades in where we see the Lions having some success. So don't forget today. Make sure you guys like the stream on your way out. And, of course, hit that subscribe button. I think we're only 50 away now from handing out a helmet. I would love to be able to give this helmet away by tomorrow. So if you haven't subscribed, please do us the honor, subscribing to the channel. Give us an opportunity, and we'll give you an opportunity to earn or win an autographed mini helmet by Penei Sewell or Chris Spielman. They come with a value of about $150. Penei Sewell's is a little bit more. That one's closer to like $230 from what I've seen recently. But anyway, we're going to be back at it tomorrow, and we're going to dig a little bit deeper into some of the stats and the keys to the game. We need to see tonight's injury report, and then Friday, I believe Eric is off.
Yep.
I think we're going to have Tony's possibly going to be on, and then we might have some other people come on as well. We'll see where that goes.
That'll be interesting. If Tony comes on, I will be listening.
Of course.
I'll be working. I'll have an earbud in, and I'll be talking to people, so I won't be able to be totally involved in the show, but I will be listening for sure.
Yeah. So I tell you what, tomorrow's going to be fun because we're going to get deep into this one. This is a big game. What's your final thoughts on the day for everything that we've learned today and uncovered?
If you just take the averages of what their offense and what their defense is doing and what our offense and what our defense is doing, we should win this game. And I think that's kind of the way that Vegas is looking at this game, giving the Lions starting off at a 3.5 point and then down to a 3-point lead. So if I go back and I look, let me see. I have little notes all over the place here. But back in the beginning of the season, Dallas was actually favored before the season started to win this game. Dallas was a 1-point favorite. So Vegas has changed their line from a 1-point favorite all the way down to a 3.5-point dog and now to a 3-point dog. So something has changed. Vegas is changing their ways on this game. They're seeing Lions are averaging this. Dallas is averaging this. This is what should happen in this game. So I'm going to stick with Vegas on this one. I'm going to think that I won't give my prediction away today, but I think the Lions are going to win this one. I think it's going to be very similar to the Seahawks game.
Interesting. Before I forget, So yesterday or last night, wee hours of the morning, I forgot to put out my in the crosshairs of the NFL video on Brian Branch and others, Kirby Joseph. So it got put out pretty late. Somehow I had it as unlisted. So I'm wondering, man, no one's watched it yet. What's going on? So anyway, in there, I pointed out how Derek Barnes was, he was blocked illegally, whether you want to call it a chop block, a crackback block, whatever. There's clear rules and defined rules for how this stuff works. And so I put a post in here to follow up. One, you guys know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm trying to convey here. Sometimes the words just don't roll off the tongue. But an illegal crackback block occurs when an offensive player comes from more than 2 yards outside the offensive tackle or from the backfield and makes contact below the waist or above the neck or from a blind side or from behind. So that is from the NFL rule book. So even though he was not engaged with somebody, you don't have to be engaged with somebody to have an illegal crackback block occur. It's just the offensive player must come from or get to 2 yards outside of the offensive tackle, which he was, or he has to come from the backfield, which he did. He was in motion, and he has to also make contact below the waist, which he did. It was below the knee. So in my opinion, it should have been a fine on Trey McBride. It should have been a flag. Neither of them happened, but I pointed out 4 or 5 instances in this video in the crosshairs of the NFL where it seems like the Lions are in the crosshairs. The Lions are consistently getting penalized. The Lions are consistently getting fines. Why just the Lions here? And why is it not happening, on the other side of the ball? This has been a consistent issue. And I think now I'm going to pay a little bit more closer attention to this. I might have to do a weekly video just on penalties and kind of track what's going on here with your Detroit Lions and the referees, because it just doesn't make sense. Too many penalties. Some, not our fault. Some are. But this is also football. And there's a human element in this, and human error is real. So we got a big game. We're going to have an even bigger Thursday when we dive a little bit deeper into the game, the keys of the game, and how these Detroit Lions can win, even though, hey, Eric said it earlier, even though the Dallas Cowboys are down and out on a few players, they are going to give us their best. This is not going to be an easy game. Even if the Lions win by 20, this will not be an easy game, I promise you. It's going to be a tough game, but I would love to win by 20. That would be incredible. Let's not forget then, Eric. So if you're going to be gone on Friday, get all of your picks and everything ready.
Yeah, for tomorrow.
Yeah, and I'll have all mine ready, and we'll just kind of roll through. We'll roll through real quick in like 10 minutes or less.
Okay.
I won't go through all of the injury reports. I'll just give the picks, and then I'll follow it up on Friday with some more information. All right, you guys have been great. You've been wonderful. As always, you're the best part of this channel, being the sponsors, the supporters, the listeners, the audience members, the everydayers, whatever you want to call yourself. You guys always show up, and we sincerely appreciate you. Do us a favor and smash the like button on the way out. As you can see, no ads. We leave the ads off as long as we get to at least 50 likes. We're going to have to start moving that benchmark up, though. We've got to get more, and at least that's what YouTube's telling me. I need more. I need more likes. We need more engagement. And that's up to you guys to get us there. I would love to be able to get into my YouTube studio real quick before we leave, and it's not letting me.
This morning.
What's that?
82 likes this morning.
Hey, good job. We're just about 18 away from where we'd like to be. We'd like to get at least 100 on every show before we leave. That just helps the show get out to more fans. I'm trying to get into my YouTube studio before we sign out. It's not letting me for whatever reason. Here we go. Interesting. All right, now I'm in the studio. I got to turn something on. I got to turn monetization back on before I leave. Otherwise, I always forget. So there we go. You guys have a wonderful day. Enjoy it. We'll be back tomorrow morning, same time, same place, same Lions channel. Take care. Go One Pride. Go Detroit Lions. Peace.
In the city, where the road meets the night, the Lions charge, ready for the fight. No more hearts and steadfast pride. Detroit spirit, we wear it white. Feel the drive, hear the crowds embrace. Locked on Detroit Lions will rise. With a heart full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the hall of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. In the city, where the road meets the night, the Lions charge, ready for the fight. Noble hearts and steadfast pride. Detroit spirit, we wear it white. Feel the drive, hear the crowds embrace. Rocked on Detroit Lions will rise. Rocked on Detroit Lions will rise. With a heart full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the hall of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. With every game, we rise and unite. Fueling the passion, igniting the light. Through highs and lows, we'll stand as one. A legacy, a tale that's just begun. Together we roar. Together we roar. Rocked on Detroit Lions will rise. With a heart full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim